what sort of wording do you use when you realize that they need to change over and they need more of the other modality?
I find that it comes back to the practitioner and their mindset. And that's pretty much like the biggest thing that I love to work with practitioners with is helping to improve their mindset around not having things separate, right?
Yep.
We are holistic practitioners. And it doesn't matter if you're an NER practitioner and a naturopath or a nutritionist and a hypnotherapist. It doesn't matter what other modality you have. You are a practitioner that has all different tools. And so it comes back to your mindset of not thinking that they're separate.
Mentoring with Geraldine is a bite-sized practitioner podcast for naturopaths, nutritionists, herbalists and practitioners, responding directly to the needs of a practicing natural therapist. With interviews, herbal discussions, something business, something clinical, you'll get the variety you need to enjoy and stay motivated and practice. So thanks for joining me today. Don't forget to rate, review and subscribe to the podcast for our episodes. If you'd like more support, get in contact and I look forward to working with you soon. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Mentoring with Geraldine and the Bite-Sized Podcast. How the devil are you? So here we are in the Southern Hemisphere summer holidays and in the Northern Hemisphere just the cold. Sorry about that, guys. We have, of course, our guests, and our guest today is Karlie McKeand, and she practices NER and is a naturopath as well. And what I wanted to talk to Karlie today about was integrating our multiple modalities into our practice. Because we all learn one thing and then we think something else is really good and we often learn that. And then we're not sure, do I dump the first thing or how do I integrate it? And I get this question all the time. And so hearing it from somebody who uses more than one modality and mixes it up in clinic can really help us to align and figure out how we want to do things. So thank you so much for coming on, Karlie. And please tell us about yourself, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty of mixing up those modalities.
Thank you so much for having me on today. So yes, I'm Karlie. I'm a naturopath, and I'm also an NER practitioner, Naturopathic Emotional Release practitioner. And I think it's really great to have two different modalities that I can use interchangeably in my appointments. So for those who don't know, NER stands for Naturopathic Emotional Release, and it's a tool and a modality to assess the nervous system to see if emotions or stress is driving physical symptoms, our behaviors, why we self-sabotage, and it impacts our stress in our body in a huge way. So NER is a tool to be able to assess that. And why I think it's really important to integrate this particular modality in our naturopathic appointments is because it helps us to cover all the pieces of the pie when we're working, rather than just focusing on one particular modality and maybe referring on to somebody else. I love being able to use all of my tools to be able to use my naturopathic skills, but also to be able to assess the nervous system in a different way. And I think it's really important that we integrate both of these modalities into the one consult.
Yeah, with my hypnosis, the first appointment is just a relaxation because I still want to take that full assessment, and that's a naturopathic assessment. So I still need that time. So figuring out how to mix your modalities and make them work so you can use all of them rather than going, well, I've learned this new one. I've learned meditation, so I have to dump naturopathy. And we can't just wait for the megaverse to say, hey, here's a naturopathic client. Sorry, you're still meant to do that. We have to figure out what is the best way for us to work within a systematic approach and that flows and gets the best for our clients. And of course, the underlying part of all of our clients and the reason that they come to us, they're not getting results anywhere else, but they get to talk to us and we find out their emotions. So finding out, using NER to find out what happened when they were a child, because you're not going to see that when they get upset, they have an 8-year-old tantrum, but we're going to see that or figure that out with NER and avoid the tantrum by discussing what happened when they were 8, which is part of that finding out without like hypnosis regression, which is pretty scary stuff, something I don't do. I don't do regression and hypnosis. So because we need to find out what was going on, what the background is. So in your consult with someone, how do you integrate the two? What is it that how do you figure out when do I go from naturopathy into NER or when do I go from NER into naturopathy? How does the system work for you?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So, and I would say that it's different for everybody. So you might have seen clients before in their initial consultation and they've got so much stress going on. They've got so much emotions that you feel that might be driving what's going on. So in those situations, I would see them as an initial naturopathic appointment. And then sometimes I might say, we need to do some NER for a little bit before we even talk about what you need to do, before a treatment protocol comes in place. Because if I was to go straight into a treatment protocol, it might be too overwhelming for them. They're not ready to do that. They might not do what is recommended, and then they might not ever come back because it's all too hard, or they might feel like they're failing, and then it obviously affects them more. So sometimes it might be that I see them naturopathically, I will see them for some NER consultations, and then we will get back on track and go through a treatment plan. And they're much more ready to be able to put those things in place. Sometimes I will see somebody for initial consultation and I already get started with some sort of treatment protocol, but I do use NER in my naturopathic consultations, again, to cover all those pieces of the pie. So we're changing the diet, we're doing some lifestyle interventions, but then we're also assessing the nervous system. So their nervous system is more regulated, or we have processed some behaviors so that they're more likely to be able to adhere to some of the recommendations that we've spoken about. So it's helping to, like, using both modalities in that situation actually helps them to get better results because they are doing what they know they need to, but we're also helping to create that behavioral change. So both of those recommendations are a lot easier. Sometimes I will see somebody, and this might happen even in the initial consultation or during our sort of sessions, but they might just purely need NER. That's purely what they need. So then I will go with that. And then there's some people that there's only a few things that I would check, but it's mostly naturopathic. So it really just depends on the client. Sometimes I've found that I've had a client come back for either a report of findings or we're going through some results and I've prepared the appointment. I've got all the treatment protocol ready to go. And they come in and they've had a huge something go on in between our appointments that's so huge that I wouldn't be meeting the client of what their needs are if I was to go through, let's change the diet, let's take some herbs. So it really helps to use them interchangeably of where the client is at and to help them with what they really need. And that can be the combination, it can be the single appointments, or it can be combination of the two.
So when you see the client, that first client, and they've booked in for a naturopathic appointment, and you think to yourself, I really think that we need some NER with this client. What sort of wording, what sort of script do you use? Because, I mean, when I'm working with them naturopathically, and I say, I'm a hypnotherapist as well, don't you? So I just introduce it that way. And then they'll start asking those questions. So how do you introduce that NER, that change of modality? Because you think actually you need something a little bit more, or you need that. We need to get over these barriers, because that's what it is with hypnosis and NER. We've got to get over these barriers before we can move into this next space, into this learning space of lifestyle change and diet change. I mean, diet change is my first thing with everyone. That's what I do in the very first appointment, is diet change across the board, because, well, who doesn't need diet change? I've only had 2 or 3 clients in 20 years that didn't need diet change. And those are the ones you look at and you go, wow, I wish this was my diet. It's like, how much kale can a person eat? Really? Yeah. But what sort of wording do you use when you realize that they need to change over and they need more of the other modality?
I find that it comes back to the practitioner and their mindset. And that's pretty much like the biggest thing that I love to work with practitioners with, is helping to improve their mindset around not having things separate, right? Yep. We are holistic practitioners. And it doesn't matter if you're an NER practitioner and a naturopath, or a nutritionist and a hypnotherapist. It doesn't matter what other modality you have. You are a practitioner that has all different tools. And so it comes back to your mindset of not thinking that they're separate. And so in those appointments where I feel like somebody needs more NER, I would say what the primary objective of what we need to do here is to reduce that cortisol in your system. And I feel like we need to assess your nervous system to see if it's a stress response, because if it is, we have to process that first. There might be some times where we need to use some herbal medicine or some nutritional support. Yep. But let's assess the nervous system to see. And it's really great with NER, because if it isn't emotional, we know that we can get straight into the naturopathic stuff. It's a very easy assessment. And because they also experience that assessment, they also can experience that, yes, it is a stress response, or yes, it's something else that we need to do naturopathically. So I like to see and integrate those modalities as under my umbrella of all the tools that I have. And I don't like to see them separate. And I feel that would be with any modality. It's just all those tools that I have. And again, meeting the client of what they need at that time and using the most important priority in what they need to either stick to their treatment protocol or improve their health in some way.
It's so important, isn't it? It's really important to be able to communicate to the client that it's a whole package. So if you're a massage therapist and a naturopath, you could actually have a half-half appointment if you wanted to. You could actually say, we're going to sit for half an hour and I'm going to find out about your health. Then I'm going to massage you for half an hour, which for a massage therapist, because they're wearing themselves out, their thumbs and their wrists and their shoulders, they're killing themselves doing that work. And that actually reduces their own physical, what's going on with them and the hard work, which is what it is. I love my massage, but it is hard work for the masseuse. And it means they learn more about the client rather than the client being on the table and them asking the questions the whole way through. So combining it in that way doesn't work. But having them as a half-half means that the client expects that. The client knows that's going to happen. With the NER, we can't hypnosis. I can use it sporadically. I can use it when needed. I can introduce it and let the person think about it for a while. And then they might come back and then I'll say, okay, we have to do the first session is 15 minutes because I just have to know that you can actually go into a proper relaxation. Because if you can't relax, there's no point doing hypnosis. We'll have to do tapping or something instead. So I mix that first one as a mix and then I'm able to book separate hypnosis appointments and naturopathic appointments so that we're not trying to, in some ways, crush them together. But on other occasions, we are able to put them together because if it's only a short hypnosis, then I can do the naturopathy on the side. I only want them to see them for an hour. I don't want to see them for longer than that. So it's too exhausting. And I'm sure you're the same. You can mix it up, use it when you need it. And other times it's like, okay, things are going pretty well for you. We've got through some of these barriers. Let's move on to the next step of health. And then that in turn will support the nervous system. And then we can do some more NER or we could do a little bit of it now to see if this is the right thing for you, the right supplements or whatever.
Absolutely. And it's great in our industry that we're all very different. We all have interests that are different. We have specialities that are different. We all have different potentially modalities or other courses that we've completed. And so we can create our appointments in our own way, which is right. We can see that as an abundance mindset of like, we can bring all of our tools and create it how we want to do that. And then we have those clients that are attracted to how we do things. They're attracted to see us because, we're bringing lots of different areas. And the benefit of that too is that we have an opportunity to see a wider range of clients because we've got different interests that we bring into our consultations. I see people that see me as a naturopath and then they move over and we do some NER. I have clients that come and see me for NER and then they move over to naturopathic clients. So it helps to widen the potential clients that will come and see me.
Yeah, the client base definitely improves because you've got a far larger group of people who want to see you by having another modality, by having another string to your bow. Okay, so maybe you decide, I'm only going to do naturopathy. I can't afford any other training, and this is what I'm doing. So even if we stick within our one modality, there are parts of that modality we prefer to other parts. So some people like herbs, others aren't so keen. Celluloids, I don't use celluloids personally, but that's got a lot to do with the fact I've always had my own dispensary. And there are really only so many things you can put in your dispensary. Whereas celluloids for a nutritionist might be, there's my other string to my bow. There's my other little bit that I've got that I can mix things up, change things a bit, get different results by doing something different to the person literally next door or down the road. I know up like in the Gold Coast and Queensland, there's a lot of practitioners. But if you looked at every practitioner, they'd all be different.
Absolutely.
Even though they all trained in the same college, probably at the same time, we all decide that certain parts are for us. I mean, I use bark flowers, other people use bush flowers. There's so many differences and yet we're the same. It's really interesting how we can mix it up and how we can add things to it. So have you got a new course coming out or the same course? Have you got the course coming out in the new year? That's the right wording.
So I run the NER trainings and I've got 3 live events this year and I've got 4 online trainings. And I also run the certification, which is the 6-month course that follows the naturopathic training if people are interested in doing that. But I'm really excited to get to those trainings this year and train some more practitioners in NER.
Yeah, it is lots of fun. I really enjoyed my training. I went to, because I think it was in Queensland that I came
Gold Coast,
and had a long weekend, learnt lots and lots. I have to say I don't use it much in practice, but that's because I have my hypnosis. So it's about finding out, choosing what the other things are and using them and making these discoveries. So finding out, having a session with Karlie on NEO, finding out what it is and what it can do is a great way of, I mean, I prefer receiving it. I've done the course, but I prefer receiving it. So I go to practitioners for it. It's really interesting.
Yeah,
I mean, there are sometimes we will learn something and then not use it. I learned kinesiology right back when I wasn't quite qualified, and a kinesiology course came up and I thought, oh, I'll give this a go. You know, it sounds really good. I was rubbish at it. So I can really only do basic muscle testing. I'm absolutely rubbish at kinesiology. So sometimes we have to do something to discover that it's not for us.
Absolutely.
You know, but I think the majority of people,
with those things is that maybe they come into your practice or how you do something in some unconscious way. Absolutely. Or like you said, it helps to be really clear on how you want to practice, how you want to work your consultations and make it really unique for yourself.
Absolutely. Because I think out of that group, 20 of us there, I reckon I'm the only one not practicing, but still wants to receive it. I reckon out of that entire group, I'm the only one not doing it as a modality. So statistically, that's really interesting in itself, isn't it? And that I still love it, but I haven't integrated it. But I'm a perpetual learner. So many of us are perpetual learners.
Oh, absolutely. And as you know, what I would say to that is that maybe there's a block there, Geraldine.
I used it on clients when I came back, and it was great because it was just so quick and easy to use. And I could hypnosis takes time. There's a process, whereas I could just slip that NER into my consults and it worked very, very well. Yeah. And then I had one difficult client and it didn't really work. And I thought, you know what? Shall I do this? And yet I could have totally kept going. And so, maybe there is a block. Maybe I need to do some more NER on that one. I mean, this is all about learning about those other things, because chances are people listening do have another modality. They trained in something else. You might be an accountant before you became a naturopath. So can you mix your modality of the accountancy? Well, you probably can, in that accountants would be your niche group and they like a particular structure. So although you're not an accountant as a naturopath, or maybe you came from corporate, it means that you know and understand those people to be able to work within that sphere and organize appointments that fit into that lifestyle for those people.
Industry. Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree.
There is so much going for us. We've got so many opportunities and we're also very different. It's absolutely brilliant. So, and I do hope that people check out the NER course. I will put the link on the show notes for everyone so that they can go and check it out and see what's coming up for 2023, because it sounds very exciting.
Thank you so much. Right. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's been great.
Some of your prackies understand that like these modalities don't have to be separate. We can integrate them in such a big way and we can choose to do it how we see fit. And it's really exciting stuff.
Nobody controls us. So we have that choice. We're qualified, we're trained, we've got our naturopathic degrees. So we're not fools in the first place. These other things that we do enhance that original learning. And that is postgraduate study. So as a nurse, I did a lot of postgraduate study. And postgraduate study is what enhances our practice and makes us better practitioners as we keep learning. And we don't diss things. We don't never throw the baby out with the bathwater. There's always learning there. Well, thank you very much, Karlie. It's been absolutely brilliant chatting. And I look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Thanks so much.
Thanks so much for joining me today. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast for the weekly episodes. If you'd like even more support and learning, then the Academy is for you. Here you'll find part 2 of the herbal discussions, more clinical learning, and case studies to support your clients in practice. Bye for now.